Check 1 2.
It's a very pretty topper. This is my favorite.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice and warm. I didn't even see anything. Didn't notice. Yeah, it's nice and warm. Yeah. It's actually a dress. I wear it with leggings. Yep. Yep.
is this?
That's the choir.
A fire alarm?
Choir.
Choir. The choir alarm.
It's a special microphone for the choir.
Okay, it's the choir alarm.
Yes.
No, our choir doesn't need an alarm. Oh, did you get my note about needing the grid?
Everybody Wednesday, Tuesday. But when I copied all, I think he's got your old email
Oh, he's
because it
probably got.
bounced back.
Yeah, he's probably
So I
got
have
the
to send
Earth
it.
link. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't even have it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that bounced back when I sent it, but I think that's the one he's been using, which is why you haven't yet.
Oh,
So I'll send it to you later too.
yeah.
I'm busy, but like
I
I'm
know.
focused on this, and then I have a meeting
Well, we're going to go to the 3:00 meeting. A whole bunch of us here.
to.
What do you call it? 5 words. I forget the names. It's oh damn. If
That's okay.
no, if somebody that I would know is going. Mary, are you going?
Versus are we doing it the first hand?
And I said, I know it's 5 left. Oh, it's probably in here. Events, power, safe houses. I'll show him. It's almost 11. 1 minute. Yeah, so do I.
Good morning. Welcome to the service of Unitarian Universalists of Mount Airy. I'm Jill Salkin, one of the worship associates, and it is my pleasure to be leading today's service with fellow worship associate Steve Workman. Jill Sutherland and Lena White provide childcare downstairs after our religious educator, Elizabeth Ann Terry, brings us a story for all ages. Connor Sheehan is our audio-visual tech. We thank a team of musicians who have stepped in at the last minute, Jane Holting and Ann Arfa. This is a UU congregation, which means we are people of many differences, different faith traditions, different racial identities, different gender expressions, and of all different ways of moving in and showing up in the world. And we are people of togetherness who make covenant promises to be together and to act with love for transformation, liberation, and healing. Some reminders: please make sure your cell phones are silent. Restrooms are located at the rear and downstairs, and you can ask for assistance with the lift if needed. We welcome you to join us for refreshments downstairs at our coffee hour following the service. It is a joy to be here together, whether you are in the sanctuary or joining us online. When we light our chalice, you may want to have a chalice or candle ready to light at home. Take a look at the events page inside your order of service, and if this is your first time with us, please fill out the card, which can be accessed in the pews or by asking for one. Unitarian Universalists are diverse seekers who believe in the inherent worthiness and dignity of every person, and that love with a capital L is at the center of all that we do. Our covenant is expressed through a set of shared independent values. Everyone is welcome, whether it's your first time, have been a long-time participant, or are returning after some time away. You are welcome to embrace what speaks to you, no matter what you believe in or do not believe in. This is a loving community welcoming questions, doubts, and what is on your heart to share. The theme for this month's services is story. The focus today is entitled Fractured Fairy Tales. Let us come together as a beloved community. In UU congregations, we light a chalice to celebrate our coming together in love, to mark the sacred space and time of our community, and invite the Spirit into our lives. We invite you to light a candle wherever you are today and read along with us here in the sanctuary. The words to light our chalice come from the poet Amanda Gorman. 4 years ago, she warmed us with her poem, The Hill We Climb, that she wrote for President Biden's inaugural. These words are the last stanza from that poem, and we remain warmed and comforted by them today. Please join me in reading them as Steve lights the chalice here in the sanctuary. When day comes, we step out of the shade aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Our opening hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life. We invite you to stand in body or rise in spirit as we sing this hymn together.
Part of our being a community is learning to share the authentic and vulnerable parts of ourselves with others, to see and to be seen, to know and to be known. We make space today for that sharing, all of which helps to build this congregation into beloved community. We invite you to share what's going on in your life, to name your feelings and the people on your heart and who are in need of prayer, good energy, best wishes, and other help. We invite you to get into your body and investigate the emotions you're experiencing, to share them as you feel called to do, so we can help one another hold our joys, our grief, our in-between feelings. Okay. We build community by celebrating our good things, mourning our troubles, taking risks, and listening deeply. For those sharing online, we invite you who are on Zoom to put what you're feeling into the chat function. If you would like us to share your joy or sorrow, please include the word share in your message. For those here in the sanctuary, we ask that you come up one at a time by the side aisle to your right. To pick up a stone or stones from the basket, infuse those stones and charge them with your joy or sorrow, and place it in the bowl of water where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. This morning, we invite you to take a moment to witness how your stone nestles to the stones of others, and how we are all surrounded by the water that symbolizes our community and shared grief and joy. Do keep in mind, if you're speaking out loud, that we are broadcasting to the internet, so if that might temper what you are willing to share, please be mindful of that. Come, whoever you are, the sacred space of deep sharing is now open.
Hi, I'm Jane, and my son Ben is starting a new job tomorrow, so I wish him well.
Good morning, I'm Cynthia. My joy is that my husband and I welcomed our first grandchild a month ago. Her name is Adeline, and she's very pretty. My sorrow is that a year ago, I was having so much anxiety, I went on Zoloft, and I've lost the ability to cry. I don't know whether that's a common thing when you go on Zoloft, but it was kind of heartbreaking because I imagined that when my first grandchild was born, I would weep, but I didn't. So I'm hoping that I can get off the Zoloft sometime soon so that I can cry for joy, at least.
Hi, hi, I'm Paul, and I just wanted to thank Kathy McCalbury for hosting a dinner for 8 last night, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to know better some folks from here that we had dinner with yesterday.
Hello, I'm Sandy. I'm a member of this church for a number of years. I had an hour and a half conversation with my daughter-in-law in California this past week, and she's still worried about her job. Of course, you know, who isn't these days? Huh? But she really is a splendid person, and I give a lot of love to her. And I put in 3 stones for her and my 2 grandchildren, her children.
I'm Beth. My daughter got a cheaper apartment, and the next thing is job search. Maybe.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Ann, and I put a stone of sorrow in the bowl for my nephew Christopher, who's 55 and nearing the end stages with Parkinson's.
My name is Bruce. I just wanted to celebrate the brisk but wonderful concert that we had here last night with John Flynn. The temperature was a little on the low side, but our hearts were warmed.
Jill, would you please add a stone for all of the joys, sorrows, and concerns not shared out loud, but held in the sacred quiet of our hearts? Thank you. And now I'll invite Elizabeth Ann to come back. Do you want to come up here, or? She has a special story for all ages entitled The Platinum Rule.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Ann. I use pronouns she, her, and Elizabeth. And the story this morning is called Creamy or Chunky. It's a story about this girl, Jasmine, who's in the 3rd grade at Northwest Academy. She loves school. She loves her classmates. She loves her teacher. This girl just loves everybody. So at this school, each day for the after-school program, one of the kids brings refreshments, like sandwiches or crackers or something like that. So Jasmine loves peanut butter sandwiches, just loves them. So since she loved them, she's assuming everybody else loves peanut butter sandwiches. So the morning that she was to make the sandwiches, she got help from her big sister, Lisa, to make the sandwiches, and then there's decisions that have to be made. Jasmine loves everybody, but she hates to make decisions. So it's like, okay, what kind of bread are we gonna use? Whole wheat pita, Wonder Bread, maybe. So then they decided they were gonna use whole wheat and white bread. Make 2 kinds of sandwiches, but then, oh my goodness, the big decision. Creamy or chunky peanut butter, which would it be? So they're in the kitchen and they're like thinking about this, and big sister says, let's keep it simple. Let's make them all creamy. All right. So they put each sandwich in a little sandwich bag, and then the bags with the sandwiches in like a plastic container, like Tupperware, goes in the backpack, and then she's off to school. And she can't wait until after school so she can share the love that's coming through the peanut butter sandwiches. So they're sitting at their little tables, and she's excited, and she like rips the lid off of the container and says, I love y'all, and I made sandwiches for you. So she starts passing it around. Some kids don't take a sandwich. Some kids don't want to touch or even sniff that container. It goes all the way around. You know, like there's 20 kids in the class, so she had made 25 sandwiches in case somebody was hungry and didn't have breakfast or something. She loved them. So she was like confused, sad, embarrassed, disappointed, and a whole bunch of stuff, because it didn't seem like the class got it that she loved them, and she was showing her love through peanut butter sandwiches. And if they loved her, wouldn't they take a peanut butter sandwich? But they weren't taking peanut butter sandwiches. They didn't like them. They didn't like them? And then Jasmine remembers her friend John is allergic to nuts. Oh, so she was doing this out of love, which is a good thing. It was kind. That's a good thing. But she was thinking about what she loved, not what other people might enjoy eating. So, she had learned in her school about the golden rule. Treat others as you would like to be treated. But then there was this kid in the class who was like, yeah, I know about the golden rule, but I want to tell you about the platinum rule. The platinum rule. And so she says, well, what's that? Through her tears. What's that? And so he says, we need to have a conversation with people to find out what they need or what they want and what they love. Platinum rule is treat others as they would like to be treated. And then she stopped crying, blew her nose, and said, oh, I can ask the class what they would like. If I'm making peanut butter sandwiches, they can be in a separate container. And I can show that I love you by listening to what you want, and I can make that the platinum rule. Treat others as they would like to be treated. Have a conversation, find out who they are, share your love.
Yeah, there's no one to sing out, is there? So we. I'm happy if everyone stays up here and listens to the next story. As Jill said at the outset of today's service, the theme for January is story, and the title of today's service is Fractured Fairy Tales. And I have a story for you. So the story I'm going to be telling is my favorite one from childhood. And it's a favorite of mine because, although it's probably not true, the lessons it reveals about human nature absolutely are true. I'm sure you're already familiar with The Emperor's New Clothes, but this is a time when its details are clearly worth reconsidering. Once upon a time, remember Julie? Once upon a time, there was an unusually self-centered and arrogant emperor who wanted the best of everything for himself and his minions. He hired the best people, believe me, the best generals, and of course the best people to create the expensive outfits that would show off his remarkable physique and ensure he'd be the center of everybody's attention. He promised to make life great again in his capital city. Charlatans poured into town to shower the emperor with flattery so that they could benefit from his high position. One day, 2 con artists showed up. They said they were weavers and that they could make the most magnificent fabrics imaginable. Not only were their colors and patterns uncommonly fine, but the clothes made of their cloth would become magically invisible to fools, the gullible, and anyone who was unfit for high office. The emperor realized that if he wore one of their suits, he could soon discover which of his appointees were unfit for their posts, and he could tell the wise ones from the fools. He paid the con artists a fantastic sum of money to make him a suit from their magic cloth. The con artists set up 2 looms, although there was nothing on them. All of the finest silk and the purest gold threads that they had demanded had gone directly into their own pockets, yet they pretended to weave. One day, the emperor decided that it was time to check on the progress of his suit. Because he knew that those who were unfit for their positions would not be able to see the fabric, he decided to send his most trusted advisor to visit the weavers. His trusted advisor was ushered into the room where the two con artists sat working on their empty looms. He couldn't see anything because there was no fabric at all to see. But of course, he could not admit that. The two con artists encouraged him to come close to admire the beautiful colors and the intricate textures of those fabrics. They pointed to the empty looms, and the poor old advisor squinted as hard as possible. He wondered, can it be that I'm a fool? No one must know. I can never reveal that I cannot see the magical cloth. Tell us what you think of it, said the weavers. The emperor's advisor said, such a pattern. What colors? I will tell the emperor how delightful it is. We're pleased to hear that, the con artist said. They proceeded to name all of the colors and to describe the intricate patterns. The trusted advisor leaned in very carefully, listening so that he could describe every detail to the emperor. The emperor soon sent another trustworthy official to ask how soon the outfit would be ready. She saw the same thing as the first advisor. She squinted, but she could see nothing on the looms. Isn't it a beautiful piece, the con artist asked, as they described their imaginary pattern. The official thought, I know I'm not gullible, so it must be that I'm unworthy of my high office. No one must find this out. I have too much to lose. So she praised the materials she could not see. She claimed to be delighted with the beautiful colors and the exquisite patterns. To the emperor, she said, it is spellbinding. The whole town was talking of this splendid cloth, and the emperor wanted to see it for himself. Attended by his retinue, including the two trusted aides who had already reported on the fabric, they found the con artists weaving with earnest determination. Just as we told you, said the two previously duped officials. What colors? What design? They pointed to the empty looms, each supposing that the others could see this stuff. What's this, thought the emperor. I can't see anything. This is terrible. Am I unfit to be the emperor? Covering his bases, he said, it has my highest approval. The whole retinue strained and stared. They all joined the emperor in exclaiming, it's magnificent, and they advised him to wear the clothes made of this wonderful cloth in the great procession he was soon to lead. The words excellent, unsurpassed, bigly passed from their mouth, and everyone did their best to seem well pleased. On the day of the procession, the emperor came in with his noblest nobles. The con artists each raised an arm as if they were holding something. They said, these are the trousers. Here's the coat. Here's the mantle, naming each garment. All of them are as light as a spider web. One would almost think he'll have nothing on, but that's what makes them so fine. If your imperial majesty will condescend to take his clothes off, the con artist said, we will help him on with these new ones. The emperor undressed, and the con artists pretended to put his new clothes on him, one garment after the other. So off went the emperor. The crowds lining the streets said, oh, how fine are the emperor's new clothes. Don't they fit him to perfection? No costume the emperor had ever worn was such a complete success. And then from the crowd came the cry of a little girl. He isn't wearing anything at all. He's buck naked. And from that moment, each person along the parade route shouted one to the other what the courageous child had said. He hasn't anything on. And finally, everyone could admit what had clearly been evident to them all along. The emperor was indeed naked. The story does not end there. This past Tuesday, our new president attended the traditional prayer service at the Washington National Cathedral. Washington's Episcopal Bishop, Mary Ann Edgar Buddy, presided. In doing so, she displayed the same integrity and courage as that little girl in the story. attempting to reframe the argument professed by all those assembled, she looked at a very uncomfortable president directly in the eye and spoke to him. I was going to read those words to you, but I want you to hear it as she said it. So I'm going to ask Connor now to introduce Bishop Buddy.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here.
Not too exciting, was it? They can do much better.
I say that not to belittle anyone, but to
Let me make one final plea.
encourage everyone to not be afraid as we go forward into the future, to speak truth to power, to say what it is you actually see. And as she ended that in an earlier clip, amen, and I will repeat her amen. Now is the time when we share our offering of both money and music. These resources are for the nurturing of this community. And Arfa, will you please help us with the music part of that? We know there are many ways to give back to this congregation. If this is your first time with us, there is no expectation that you give anything at all, other than the contact form that Jill referenced earlier, letting us know how you found us and what we can do to support you. For those who that was in case Ann wasn't here. For those who would like to give back in other ways, we encourage you to find a way that works for you. Your time and energy are just as valuable to us as your dollars and cents. For those who do choose to give financially, your money or checks put into the plate today will be used to fund the everyday operations of this congregation. Any pocket change or money that you designate as change for change will be sent to this month's selected Change for Change organization, the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. There's more information on the screen about how to give online, and anyone can use the mobile app Vanco Mobile. The plate is now being passed and will be gratefully accepted.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you, Jane, again. Before I start telling you my reflection, I want to say a couple of things. One is that Steve is not dressed early for St. Patrick's Day, as our wonderful Sandy said earlier. He is dressed for the Eagles today. Yes, go Birds. I absolutely have nothing green in my wardrobe, so he's doing it for both of us. The other thing is that our wonderful music director, Holly Ferris, was supposed to be here today for her last service with us, and she was not feeling well, but she told me that she would be here next week. So sending her all that love and energy, everybody, to be able to be with us. And we have a cake. We do have a cake, for her, and I'm sure will not go to waste. And we're going to enjoy that cake today for Holly, and look forward to seeing her next week. And thank you, Holly, for everything, and we look forward to seeing you. How did the story of America change so much from what we expected could happen? How did our country get to where it is now? Why are we so shocked that the snake, that's what I call him, I think a lot of you know that, is in the White House again? What happened to the hope and excitement about Kamala Harris and the confidence that she was going to lead us into a bright new era? How can we understand how more than half of those who voted cast their vote for him? And why did 85 million of the electorate not vote? To have many more questions than satisfying answers and see the outrageous things he does on a daily basis is so very unsettling and can undermine our daily life and spirit. How can we better understand why he was elected and why the story we expected from our country changed so much? I want to be in a place that is middle ground between putting my head in the sand and letting my anger and frustration take over. How do I do that? How can I understand why the story is so different from the one I believed it would be? A hopeful, exciting beginning with Kamala Harris, whose cabinet would reflect the diversity of our country. I have to start with the variety of sources from which people get the news, believing it as the truth. Most of us grew up with 3 TV networks: ABC, CBS, and NBC. Our families heard the same news stories, and we were confident it was the truth. With the addition of cable news channels such as CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, and the proliferation of material which can be viewed on YouTube and elsewhere online, news comes to us in ways that can be skewed by the source. I asked my longtime friend, who many of you know, musician Dave Posventier, who's played here and with me, to give me his take on why the snake won. Since he follows politics and social justice events so closely, I knew he'd give me an astute take on this. Here's what he said about why the snake won. I think there were a few major factors. One was the inherent racism and sexism in this country that helped many, especially white men, decide that they did not want a black woman as president. Another major factor was the amount of disinformation and flat-out lies perpetrated by right-wing media, especially Fox News and other far-right media people who were generously funded by billionaires, most of whom wanted Trump to win. Another factor was the disappointing team coverage by mainstream media, which basically normalized Trump, he says Trump, and his party's outlandish and outrageous actions and speech. Whether by fear or simply bias, the owners of the mainstream media did not hold Trump accountable for his crimes and moral and ethical failures. I then asked Dave, why did millions put all of his failings aside? Do they not care enough about honesty? Am I creating a false argument because they see him differently than we do? How is that possible when his acts are so many and so egregious? Dave responded, partly because many do not believe his failings because they are told it's all fake news. They don't want to believe all his failings, so they simply don't. For example, they are told that it's all a witch hunt and politically motivated against him. even though there are mountains and mountains of evidence showing his guilt. Perhaps it's not too different from selective belief that people have of the Bible, where they pick out the parts they like and that they agree with and just ignore the rest. My last question of Dave was, why had there been such a low approval rating for Biden? His answer, same reason. The right-wing media tells people how bad things are. A majority of Americans during last year actually believed we were in a recession. We were not. And here's another example. 7 out of 10 Americans said that they were doing okay financially, but the same poll revealed that only 3 out of 10 Americans said the economy of the country was okay. Thank you, Dave. To further clarify the reasons for the results of the election, I examined some online articles. Some Black and Latino voters, along with voters from other groups, said that the economy and jobs were the most important issues and that things were better under the snake's first presidency compared with Biden's. Belief in the economy being in bad shape made it more difficult for Kamala Harris to show actual figures, that inflation decreased dramatically, unemployment had remained low, and wages had risen. These voters did not feel that progress. People complained about prices going up and immigration issues were a concern. The snake had many more Black and Latino voters this election. And of course, the MAGA base contributed to his win. Actually, his numbers increased with all groups, increasing significantly since his first election win. Some people cast their vote based on their fear of a changing America. And there is something that can be called anti-minority sentiment among minorities. Despite his offensive rhetoric about people of color, some of those people supported him because of his bogus machismo, and some were concerned about immigration. Pennsylvania Representative Democrat Susan Wild, who just lost her bid to a Republican for re-election, said that her party is still the better option for the working class, but Democrats are not communicating that effectively because they are getting caught up in what she called lofty issues, such as women's reproductive and LGBTQ rights. They can be called lofty because if you don't have someone in your family dealing with these issues, your struggles with paying the rent or putting food on the table will take priority. Some of the electorate felt that the focus on promoting gender and race equality was going too far. This brings me back to the focus today of fractured fairy tales and the story of this election, the story of America, our expectations, our hopes, then the tremendous disappointment. Aren't we supposed to be getting better all the time? What about the civil rights movement? All the protests and marches throughout many decades. Affirmative action, progress in regard to diversity, the many seats in our government filled by minorities. In his book, Make Change That Lasts, author Dr. Rangan Chatterjee presents the concept of the escalator myth, saying that even though we know intellectually that nothing gets better indefinitely and that steps forward alternate with steps backward, we still, even if unconsciously, subscribe to the belief that life ought to be like an escalator, with us always progressing upward with steady, predictable advances. That isn't how life is, and not how America is. Maybe we have to go through a time of backward steps before we take forward ones. Or maybe in some way we're moving forward now. We will continue to oppose harm and injustice. There are still 2 major parties, the ACLU and courts on many levels, which are there to uphold our rights. There are 71 million of us who did not vote for him. Although America's history proves the escalator myth to be just that, a myth, the overall progress has given us the hope and courage to believe that things can change, and that this administration, as undesirable and frightening as it is, will not be the be-all, end-all of America. We have been through terrible times in our young nation, and we will move through this one and preserve what our country has always been, a nation of diversity and freedom. As you go through this perilous time, however long it may last, do not let it take your joy. Stand up for what you believe. Watch enough news to catch up and then turn it off. Don't involve yourself in debates on social media or in long discussions about it with friends. Practice gratitude for all the people, animals, and good things in your life. Be kind. Remember that you are among millions of people who want the same things you do, and that we can continue to elect people who serve and uplift us. Let Kamala Harris's joy and hope wash over you. We are not going back.
It's now come time to extinguish our chalice and end our time together here in the sanctuary this morning. Do please remember to stick around for announcements. There will be announcements in the slides that follow. And join us downstairs for our coffee and social hour. Folks on Zoom are welcome to remain online and check in with each other following this service. For more information about what's going on in the congregation, you can check our weekly newsletter, which comes out on Thursdays via email, or you can peruse the insert in your order of service today. Finally, check out our website and social media pages for more important updates. One of the things I enjoy doing is discovering people that most people don't know are Unitarian Universalists, and I like bringing that fact to light. And today, the words to extinguish our chalice are from the late Rod Serling, who was a Unitarian Universalist. I'll invite Jill to read them aloud. I will read them aloud as Jill extinguishes the chalice. It's a bit long, so I won't have everyone do it together. But here are those words. Hatred is not the norm. Prejudice is not the norm. Suspicion, dislike, jealousy, scapegoating, none of those are the transcendent facets of the human personality. They are the infectious and contagious viruses that have been bleeding humanity for years. And because they have been, and because they are, is it necessary that they shall be? I think not. Our closing song today is presented in video format. It's entitled Writing a Better Story, performed by Carrie Newcomer, and I thank Linda Hansel for bringing that to our attention. The words are embedded in the video, so I would like people to look at those and focus on those and meditate a bit as she sings that song.
I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. And though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I could go to bed at night with a better storyline. Changed in the past, let the old house burn down and the wind scatter the ash. Forgive myself for all the broken glass, what I didn't know how to say or ask. I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. Though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I could go to bed at night with a better storyline. Here's a scene when I lost my map, when the breadcrumbs blew away and there was no way back. just the compass of my heart to find the path, seen only in the dark. Flash to lightning flash, I'm writing out an ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. Though I won't get back a day's stolen time, I could go to bed at night with a better storyline. There are stories shaped like stones, the ones our hearts have always known, the ones we finally call our own. Down where the spirit meets the bone, I'm ending where another story starts. At the edges I can grow, even when they're razor sharp. I'm grateful for the words that I bookmarked before I really knew I'd need them for this part. I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. Though I won't get back a day's stolen time, I could go to bed at night with a better storyline.
And I'm presenting a benediction, and I don't feel qualified to do that, so this will actually be quoting a poem from Reverend Tim Hedsted. It's called Instructions on Living in a Broken World. Lean into community, seek out love, applaud the good you see, keep paying attention, talk to your neighbors, dance to the music and embrace art. Look for love and small joys. Take breaks and relish in nourishing your body. Donate what you can. Check in with your people. Linger at the dinner table with friends. Let yourself grieve. Love one another as deeply as you can. The storm is upon us and we must hold on. Don't give up. We're here together. And so we rise. Thank you all for being with us today. I invite people to conversation and fellowship downstairs in the fellowship hall, and I send each of you out into the world with love. May it be so.
Thank you.